Welcome back to the 2023 FVC Summer Series. Round 7 of 9 at the Circuit Gilles Villeneuve up in Canada. 19 drivers are going to be joining us today. 17 currently in the lobby, 2 more on the way. And Azzy is in touching distance of the title. 4 drivers currently trying to stop her, although only 3 of them are going to be with us today. Getting notes as well from the drivers in the lobby that there is going to be a wet end to the race. 72% at 30 minutes and same at 45 and 60. The wet ending to this race could make it very interesting to see the Mercedes of D765 heading out onto track, the first car of our 17 drivers currently with us. Also coming out onto track is going to be the McLaren. I'm unsure if that's going to be Harrison M or the return of Carbon. As the drivers make their way around the formation lap, let's take a look at the previous pole positions at the Montreal circuit. Season 3, the last time this race was on the calendar, and the only time in the public era was taken pole by LCR F1 Ben 23, who is currently not with us in this season. Apex Miata was Season 2, Apex is also here, as you see, down in 12th, partnering up with Azzy at Haas. And Season 1 was taken pole by Zach Davies, but Seasons 1 and 2 were both in the AI era of the league. It's the first time they're running in a long time that this league is back at the Montreal circuit. It'll be very interesting to see what all the drivers can do here. Note to make out as well that Carbon's, this is his first race since Season 4 Bahrain, completely missing the entirety of Season 5. Let's jump on board with the Mercedes of D765 as he takes the first lap around Circuit Gilles Villeneuve. Very tight chicane of turns 13 and 14, and then it's a DRS zone all the way down up to turn 1. Slight right-hander, these cars do not notice it, then it's a hard braking zone into a left hand, and then immediately into a right-hand hairpin. Gotta get your power down good, and if you do that, you get a great run up to the chicane of turn 3 and 4. Gotta be careful here, it's a lot higher speed than it looks, however, it also easily possible to make a mistake through those corners. Heading into now turns, I believe, is 6 and 7, heading into the middle sector. Your second DRS zone of the circuit. There's a yellow flag up in sector 1 for one of the Haas cars, unsure of who that is. Going to be detrimental to their qualifying efforts. They were very close to each other and possibly trying to give each other a tow throughout the lap. Now up into the very top of the circuit, heading into sector 3, turn 10, hard braking zone to another chicane. There's a purple middle sector as well as a purple first sector for D75. Good power out of the hairpin there for D75 now into the final DRS zone. Technically the final one is split into 2 parts through the speed trap, heading into the final chicane. Very tight. You've got to be careful of the wall on the right hand side there, the wall of champions as it is called. Many drivers hit that over the years coming across the line. Setting the bar, the Mercedes is a 1:10.419. Let's see what the other drivers across the league can do to challenge them. Heading over to a Haas of Azzy coming across the line next up to start her flying lap. Keep an eye on how she's progressing as we have a look at the rest of the drivers making their way around the circuit. Second Haas of Apex heading back into pit lane. Purple first sector for Azzy. Unsurprising for her, a rapid driver. Yellow flag in the third sector. Slow moving Ferrari of Finnell, possibly getting in the way of a couple of cars before getting back up to speed. The Red Bull coming up against it very quickly. They're all going to be starting the laps. They're going to be very, very close to each other. As Blah heads into second place at 1:11.482 and Carbon into third with a 1:11.986. We'll stay along here with Azzy. He continues the way along the lap. It's a purple middle sector going absolutely flying around the circuit currently. As the Mercedes D75 into pit lane. No further obstruction for Azzy. Just needs to navigate through the final chicane without causing any problems. It's yellow sector 2 for an Alfa Romeo. A little bit tentative on the entrance, but gets it down perfectly now. Up to the line, Azzy for the first line lap. It's going to set a 1:10.413. Very close to the Mercedes. Purple sectors all the way around, but very, very, very little between them there. We'll head over to the Alfa Romeos, who are both very close to each other. That looks like a second Alfa Romeo of Weepier without a front wing. Indeed, it is. Going into bother there, that's going to be detrimental for his efforts. So wasting a bit of time for him. Jumping up to Carbon next. Second flying lap. Didn't go into pit lane. Very surprising about that. 1:11.986 to beat for the McLaren driver. Doesn't improve. Stays in provisional 4th place, but there are still another 13 drivers to go. Alpine coming out of the pits. Not going to worry about there. Has to respect the exit lines of the pit lane. Heading over to the Ferrari coming across the line of Fiddle. Going to be starting one of his flying laps as Curly for AlphaTauri, 1:12.601. Just behind the Ferrari, possibly getting a little bit of a tow. Let's jump over to the Aston Martin of Pixels, who's going to be up next to cross the line. Doesn't say he's still on an outlap, however, judging by how old those tyres are, he might still possibly be on one heading onto his first flying lap. Coming across the line, let's see if it pulls up. No, it is a 1:23, so that's definitely a outlap for the Aston Martin driver. Down to Dorado, starting flying laps. Jump aboard the Red Bull driver as he navigates around the Montreal circuit. Good first turn, heading into the hairpin of turn 2. Running it out wide, not as wide as it could be, but getting the power down nice and quickly. Heading into 3 and 4 with Sebastian Vettel. In real life in 2019, had his controversial moment there. Little bit of a lift heading round the turn 5, however, is a purple first sector for the Red Bull driver. If he keeps this going, he could be challenging up at the top for a provisional pole position. Into the DRS zone in sector 2 between turn 7 and 8. High speed here. Red Bull doesn't seem to be moving as quick in a straight line as it has for previous races in the season. It's a purple middle sector though for the Red Bull driver. He keeps this up, he could be up at the top. Beating out the Haas of Azzi for the first time this season. Get a good exit from the final hairpin now into the DRS zone, the final one of the circuit. Gonna have the edges of a toe from that Haas in front. Gonna be apex. Judging by the graphics there, yellow sector 3, or yellow sector 2 and 3, sorry, for a slow moving McLaren. Coming across the line for his first flying lap, is going to be setting a 1:12.776. Possibly went very wrong in the final sector. Purple first and second sector for the Red Bull driver all came crashing down. Over 2.3 seconds behind what he could possibly do. Back over to Carbon, invalidated lap for him. We'll also move over to the Williams of Jacobo 837, who is the 79th driver to join us in the FVC of the league era. Don't know if you've seen the message in admin chat, but no game audio. I will try and fix that. Give me one moment. The wrong button. Where is the... That should cause them to get fixed. Audio was coming through for me. I don't know why it wasn't displaying on OBS. That should have fixed it now. My apologies for that slight mishap. It's good it only happened in qualifying and not into the race. Information on Pixels, if we have it now, that is good to know. Sector 3, yellow flag, as well as an invalidated lap for the Williams of Jacobo. Also going to be the permanent reserve for the Williams team, currently standing in for Sam Baker, if I'm not mistaken. But no, I am. He's currently standing in for OJ. Slow moving in the final sector, probably getting the rest of that battery charge. Indeed, he is. The flashing red light on the back of that car indicates charging up the battery. Moving back up to the top. Not much change, just moved out through the grid apex and setting a lap, a 1:12.906. We'll also jump over to the second Alfa Romeo of Wheatbeer. I don't know if we're getting along one of his flying laps. Purple first sector again for the Alfa Romeo driver. Many drivers going faster through the session, as he might have something to watch out for throughout the rest of the session. Purple middle sector for the Alfa Romeo driver. Also a yellow flag up in the middle sector for an AlphaTauri of Curly spinning himself around. Getting out of the way very quickly, causing no bother there. First lap wide open for Weepier. Just has to navigate around the final chicane through the... He doesn't quite navigate it as he would have hoped, invalidating the lap just at the final moment. Also invalidating his next lap, he's going to have to go all the way around again if he wants to set another flying lap, and that's going to be detrimental to his efforts. Mercedes off the road of Mo Sullivan. So the NT Rosenquist is setting a 1:14.441, heading into 9th place. Also coming back out onto track is going to be Azzy, currently up at the top of the circuit around turn 10, the hairpin that you see closer to the bottom right of your screen. Possibly going for another flying lap. We'll keep an eye on what she does, but we'll still ride along with Mo Sullivan for now. As she's coming out again, makes me wonder that she is a bit unsteady about that 1:10.413. To get a perfect setup for your lap. Coming through here is a little bit too much, invalidating the lap with a little bit of contact with the right hand side wall for the Mercedes driver, and that's just going to waste even more time for him. 6.5 minutes left of qualifying for all the drivers on track. We'll jump back over to current fan favourite Azzy. She makes her way around a flying lap. Jumping aboard back again, top of the circuit, turn 10, heading into the hairpin. Not a purple middle sector. I'm not sure if she's going any faster on this lap. Jumping out, good exit speed through the hairpin as well as good exit grip. Coming down the second to last straight, going through the chicane. Reiterated over and over, it's vital to get that right, and Azzy does get it right. Not going to be invalidating the lap, heading across the line. Let's see if she goes any faster. 1:10 to beat, and indeed it is beat. It's a 1:10.102, extending her lead at the top of the table by 0.3 of a second. Up next to be doing a lap is going to be Azzy's teammate of Apex. Two-time champion in his own right. Definitely the ideal person you'd want to be going for a championship charge like Azzy is. This team is one of the most successful on the grid. However, Apex, not as good as he has been in previous seasons, he's still putting up a very good fight. Staying aboard with him, running it out to the left hand side wall, pretty much perfectly heading between turns 7 and 8. Little bit unsteady coming out through turn 9. Not what you want to have there, invalidating the lap. Gonna have another shot at it though if he gets to the line in the next 4 minutes and 50 seconds. Very close to putting it in the wall there. Very good car control from the veteran. One of the most, if not the most successful driver in the league. It all might be changing soon. A couple of drivers still yet to set a flying lap. 6 of them, in fact. And only 4.5 minutes left to go for them to do so. Right, it's even less than that, 4 minutes and 15 seconds. We'll keep an eye on the Alfa Romeo of Blah. We'll jump over to see if anyone is on a flying lap. Indeed there is. Harrison M for the McLaren team, currently 17, heading to the last chicane. Gets it nailed pretty much perfectly, almost as well as Azzy is just not running up to the right hand side wall. Coming across the line, setting a 1:11.304 to 5th from 17th. One for support coming out for Azzy, as well as more drivers slowly filtering their way in. Welcome all to the stream. Shouldn't be too long until we get action for the race. 50% of a real life race distance. Not sure how many laps it's going to correlate to, however it is going to be a good race hopefully nonetheless. Valid lap from Harrison M. Doesn't going to matter, it's only going to be a cool down lap. Let's jump down again to the Alfa Romeo of Weepier. Going around for another flying lap, hoping this time to make it stick the entire way through. The Alfa Romeo duo are very quick in their own right as Blah has moved into the 110s with a 1:10.801. And into the hairpin, little bit too wide, heading into the braking zone. not be one of the that's going to be hemorrhaging time all the way down this very long straight. You need to get your entrance and exit through that corner basically perfect, otherwise you're just going to lose time more and more. One of the McLarens has spun around in sector 2. We'll be getting away before the Ferrari comes up this time. Heading through the chicane, getting out pretty much as well as you could hope. Coming across the line, going to be a 10th place provisionally, a 1:12.854 for the Alfa Romeo driver. Next up of our 6 that had to settle laps, going to be Broughton for the Red Bull team. Jumping aboard with him for the ending of the lap into the same section, as many drivers are going to be getting penalties and invalidated laps here, I feel. A little bit tentative, but gets it through pretty nicely. Ferrari having issues in sector 2 and 3. Coming across the line is going to be a 7th place alongside his Red Bull teammate. A 1:11.938 for Broughton. 4th row lockout provisionally for Red Bull as there is 2 minutes remaining. I'm going to be seeing a lot of drivers coming out very, very shortly, as well as all drivers possibly even tripping over each other for these final flying laps in qualifying. If there's anyone you want me to ride on board with who's currently out on track, please shout them out in the chat and I will head over to them if possible. See who is on the track at a good place to continue their lap. Possibly one of the Williams of Simon Baker is going to be next up to cross the line, as he seems to be coming back out again for a final flying run. Watch along with Simon Baker, see what he does for this final, or his first flying lap attempt. In fact, no, he's going to be going on to a first flying lap. Left himself no time. He has to get this one nailed or he's not going to be getting a good time representative. His pace as a Red Bull going slow down the straight. Let's also head over to the Alpine of Rosenquist. 1:14.4 to beat for them. Very nicely through the chicane. Across the line, moves up to 11th place with the 1:12.324. Moving ahead of the Alfa Romeo coming off the circuit. That's going to be their final attempt gone. Up next is going to be Scarlett to start a lap. Let's head over to the McLaren, who's going to be the next one to cross the line of Carbon. 6th place, a 1:11.8 to beat. Moves up into 3rd of the 1:10.6. Very strong showing for the returnee. Apex moving up to 10th place with a 1:12.0. Going to have another shot, as well as Harrison M's going to be coming across the line next. Didn't seem to improve, or at least I didn't see it. And Curly's going to be the next up to start a lap. And Azzy, right as the timer is going to be ending, 8 seconds to spare coming across the line. I think she's going to be the final one, possibly get a flying lap, so I don't think that Williams is going to make it. And indeed, it didn't. Coming across the line, Simon Baker moves up into 9th place with a 1:12.085. Let's head over and watch everybody to finish up their laps. Up next is going to be Mo Sullivan, who's not going to set a time with an invalidated lap. Up next is going to be the Williams of Jacobo. There was a retirement for one of the McLarens at the intersection between sectors 2 and 3, as well as Azzy retiring from the session as well on her flying lap. Jacobo moves up into 5th place with 1:11.115. Coming across the line as well, Scarlett into 6th place with a 1:11.264. Let's over to Haas with Apex. Going to be the next up across the line. 1:12.097 to beat from 12th place. Doesn't improve, goes into 12th. And just as quickly as it started, it's over. Still one driver to come across the line. Curly already on invalidated lap, going to be cutting across the chicane just to speed up a little bit. And that's your qualifying over. Up the top, Azzy, a 1:10.102, 3/10 clear of her nearest competitor in the Mercedes. Another driver filter their way in just before the end of qualifying. It's going to give us 18 people for the race. Don't go anywhere, we'll be with you with live racing action very, very soon. Post-qualifying, your results for the Canadian Grand Prix in the 2023 FVC Summer Series are as follows. Azzy takes pole position with 3/10 of a gap over their nearest rival of D75, who is lining up second. Carbon, returning after a long absence to the FVC, sits 3rd place for the McLaren team, and Blyapper is in 4th. Jacoby, another debut for the league, takes 5th place, and Scarlett is in 6th. Harrison M is in 7th. Broughton in 8th, Dorado in 9th, and 10th goes to Simon Baker. Finnell goes in 11th, 12th to Apex, 13th to Curly 7, 14th to VNT Rosenquist, 15th to Weepy here, 16th to Pixels, and without a lap set, Matato and Mo Sullivan at the back of the grid in 17th and 18th respectively. Welcome back to the 2023 FVC Summer Series. I'm sorry for that big lag spike there at the start. We're trying to get everything back underway and running, and indeed, there we go. We're just back after a hectic qualifying, getting ready for a 35-lap shootout around the Circuit Gilles Villeneuve. Azzy, for 3/10 of a gap over D75, takes pole position, and Mercedes, obviously of D75, is in second alongside. Carbon, after returning for a long time absence, is sat in third place, and down in fourth is Blah. Fifth place is a Williams Reserve debut of Jacobo 837. Very good qualifying result from him. And moving in sixth place is Scarly 42. Seventh place goes to the McLaren of Harrison M. And eighth and ninth goes to the Red Bull duo of Broughton and Dorado. 10th place, the final point playing position on the grid, is gone to Simon Baker 46 and 7. But anything can change. There is a huge gap there. Rosenquist disconnected from the session. Hopefully they get back in very soon. Finnell takes 11th place and Apex is in 12th. Early 7 is in 13th, Rosenquist 14th, hopefully they get back in for the race starts. 15th goes to the Alfa Romeo of Wickerbag, and 16th and 17th to the Aston Martin duo of Pixels and Matato. 18th place after a forgettable qualifying goes to Mo Sullivan 3, and that is our grid for our race. Now, moving over, let's have a look at our current championship graphic. I'm not sure why this isn't working, there we go. As he will be champion if she outscores Scarlett by 11 points today. There's also 4 conditions there of she needs to not get outscored by D765, King, English, and Blah. 2 of those drivers aren't even with us today. That's just going to be for even greater chances. D765 has to outscore her by more than 5 points to stay in it, and Blah has to outscore her more than 21 points. It's going to take a miracle for some of these drivers to keep it going, but a miracle can sometimes happen in this league. Jumping back over to our race broadcast, trying to find my button to get back over here. Eventually this will kick back in. There we go. Lining up back in the grid. 2 drivers from disqualification. Sorry for our slight difficulties in getting everything running. Not sure why we're going. There we go. 1, 2, 3, 4. The 5 red lights are on. It's lights out and away we go for the Canadian Grand Prix in the Summer Series. Tentative start from across the grid. Azzy looking to get just a little bit better start than Mercedes. Further back, she also got an amazing start, as is Blood. Jacobo, sorry. Falling just a little bit to other cars, staying in position. Carnage at the back as well. Drivers swapping positions everywhere. Already half second in front is going to be Azzy for the Haas team. Moving on down the grid. These two are fighting on to going to be 2 wide, 3 wide. Rosenquist getting back in the section. They're going to be 3 wide through the... Okay, that's a big crash. Huge already. Alfa Romeo going out of Blah. Other cars heading into the wall. Going to be an immediate early race safety car. I'm not quite sure why our replay scene isn't working for us. We will get that sorted at some point. Apologies for that broken replay, but that is already 1 car gone. I will see what the general consensus is about that, but I think we're going to be continuing going for the race. Off only a virtual safety car. That car's already been cleared off the track. Hopefully it shouldn't be too much longer before we get going again. There's already a big gap between these top 3 as well as, in fact, top 4, sorry, and then 5th place in No Man's Land of Apex and 6th downwards. Completely gone. While we're under this virtual safety car, I will take another look at my replay scene, and it does not appear to be working. Apologies, we'll have to be cutting that off. Hopefully as well, by disabling our replays, it will improve the performance just a little bit for you all. Hopefully that gets it all better. We're going to be back to green. Azzy getting a little bit of a jump. But that leaves only one driver capable of stopping Azzy, as the Alfa Romeo Blau went out very quickly early on the race, and that car, you see the Mercedes in second place currently following, is the only one who can stop Azzy running away. Already all the penalties for Pixels and Finnell. Not getting any warnings, so hopefully that... Yep, there we go, much smoother. The replay buffer has been causing a couple of choppiness issues over the season, however, that should fix it. That's a big slide for the Mercedes of D765, might be possibly going to be losing out to the Alpine of Scarlet behind. That's just going to be even more breathing room for Azzy. Fastest laps now cascading down the field for the top four. DRS also enabled Apex now with a 1:15.967. I expect the fastest lap to continue going on down the grids. And Potato now getting a 3-second penalty for multiple warnings. Let's pull up the penalty detail. Keep an eye on this top group, they're currently the closest together as well. We'll keep an eye on the gaps all the way down the field. If there's anyone you'd like to see, please shout them out in the chat. I expect, though, the main support is going to be going towards Azzy today. I've seen lots of people supporting her, not only in this race, but through the season. A little bit of a wall there for the Alpine of Scarlet, going to be losing just a little bit of time to the Mercedes in front. Everything is calming down a little bit. We'll jump down to the battle for 7th place. The Aston Martin and Potato is going to be challenging down into the hairpin. A huge dive against the Williams of Simon Baker, getting it done. However, 3-second penalty in hand. There's a bit of damage to the front wing of that Williams. Might just give him a little bit of an edge down the straight line speed. Coming back on board with him. DRS is going to be open for the Aston Martin and not the Williams. It's going to be just a little bit detrimental to his efforts trying to catch up. But he's definitely capable of doing it. However, it is 2 helpings of DRS here. Second section of the DRS zone is through the start line, heading up into turn 1. Fastest lap of 1:13.773 for the Aston Martin driver, as that gap starts just getting over a second mark ever so slightly. We'll jump down now to 13th between Broughton and Finnell. That Red Bull is flying up the field. Not a great start for Red Bull, however, trying to get back up as quickly as they can. We'll jump over now to 10th and 9th, closest 2 cars on track. Everything already quite quickly moving out from each other, however, hopefully it doesn't stay that way for too long. Position change for 15th as Curly falls behind Jacobo. Not a great start for the debuting Williams driver. Going to be a dive down the inside from O'Sullivan, pushing the Williams off, or the Alpine off track, sorry. Might be a little bit to investigate there. Surprise, no illegal overtake. However, O'Sullivan moves on up the field into 9th place, jumping down again, trying to find anyone. So yeah, that's going to be a spin for the Alfa Romeo of Weep here. It's going terribly for that team. Going to get moving again before 15th and 16th catches up to him, but that is not what he wanted. As he pulling away from the top of the field with a 1.7 second gap. I don't think anyone's going to be able to catch up to her at this stage. However, there is still another 30 laps to go, as well as the rain at the end of the race still to come. Keep an eye on these two and how close they remain to each other as we jump up the field, as Potato is catching up to the McLaren of Carbon. As that's another retirement for the second Alfa Romeo, heading into the Wall of Champions. Jumping on board there indeed, just spinning it through the final corner, and that's going to pull a full safety car out. As the race gets neutralized, that's going to pull those gaps all the way down, and it might just cause a little bit of a pit rush for some drivers. Safety car is going to be waiting at the first corner, as huge dive there from Scarlett heading into pit lane. Looks like parts of the rain might already even be falling, judging by the raindrops heading over the Haas car. Will stay on board with her through the pit stops. And indeed, intermediate tyres for the Haas driver. That's very early in the race that the rain has started coming. Weather forecast details seem to have not been as accurate for some of the drivers as they would have liked. They're already heading onto the wet compound tyres. We'll move over to our tyre detail graphic now, and yet more pit rush, more intermediates. I don't think it's going to get to full wet conditions, but you never know with the rain. I don't have access to any of it here, but we will definitely have to keep an eye on it. Some interesting choices there. Finnell deciding to stay out on medium compound tyres, as well as Soundbaker going out on softs, compared to the rest of the field who is staying or changing onto intermediates. Also to note, Mo Sullivan currently sat in 5th place for Mercedes on the hard compound. Might get very detrimental for him later in the race if this weather keeps up. 3 outliers still on the slicks, the rest of the field all on intermediates. Gonna be a couple of laps under the safety car as we wait for the drivers to get back up to the queue. Is there anyone that you'd like me to watch on board with under this quick safety car period? Then let me know. While we're also under this period, we'll bring up our previous winners as well. LCR F1 Ben, Season 3 winner, as well as Apex, Season 1 and Season 2 at this circuit. A long gap since we've had a race here in the league era of the FVC. However, favourites to win are currently all up at the top. However, there could be a big change further down the field. Jump back over to our tyre graphic as the Mercedes of Mo Sullivan heading into pit lane, as well as Potato. Jump over and see what they're doing. Out onto the medium slicks for the Mercedes and the hard slicks for the Aston Martin. Some of them disagreeing that the wet weather is going to be enough for intermediates. We've seen a very similar situation to this in Hungary. Some of them think it'll swing the way of the slicks, some of them think it'll stay intermediates. We'll just have to see which way it goes and who has made the right strategy call. Also take a quick look at our standings if I can find which banner it is. There we go. Up the top of the field, 40 points ahead of Scarlett is Azzy on 128. Scarlett currently leading the race, 88 points. However, as it stands, if I am not mistaken, the race or the championship will go on to the next round. I will need to double check that. However, shouldn't be too much longer before we get going to racing. Confirmation from race control. Safety car coming in this lap. Going to be going at the end of lap 7, start of 8. Scarlett's now in control of the field. Safety car in the pit lane. We'll jump on board and see with her. Azzy trying to jump the gun a little bit. Doesn't get anything. Going to be a little bit of an accordion there. Scarlett leaving it as late as possible. It'll be green flag in, coming across the line. Scarlett's got the better of the runs. However, that Mercedes of D75 might be just trying to pressure Azzy into any type of mistake. We'll jump aboard with him. Little bit of a slide though. That's going to cause a big accordion down the field as he gets running out of the way. Apex trying to put any pressure on Harrison, then jumping behind. We go too wide, just pushing out that McLaren just a little bit. Jump on board a little bit more. Finnell making a huge run up the field. There's another spin. Finnell, Soundbaker's going to be 2 cars out again. Going to be going back under safety car. 2 cars into the wall in the middle sector of the track. Yellow flag's out, and there's not going to be a safety car call yet. 2 cars are wrecked back there. Surprised no calls come out. They're possibly going to be trying to get those cars cleared away as soon as they can, but the top 3 already running away. Not sure who is to blame for that. Didn't quite get a good view of what's going on. And we're not, in fact, going to be heading... In fact, no, we are. Very late call from race control, bringing the safety car out. Top 3 electing to stay out on track, and I think that's all the indication we need. It is not slick tyre compounds or slick conditions in the current, but Apex heading into pit lane, as well as the Aston Martin of Mateo. Surprisingly, the Mercedes of Mo Sullivan staying out on the medium compound tyres. We'll jump down to the pit box, and we'll see it's medium compounds for the Haas. The Aston Martin's going to be going onto intermediates with a front wing change as well. Might be very difficult to drive in this slick tyres on these conditions. The rain is still coming down, but it isn't puddling up just yet. The track is going to be greasy though. Hopefully this safety car should be done very quickly. 2 cars to catch up. Still a couple of interesting strategy calls from some drivers. Apex might be trying to get a little bit of data for Azzy. About to take a guess. Teammates trying to get the best result for each other. However, still leading this race is going to be the Alpine of Scarlet. Looks like we're going around another lap. Unless the call comes out very late. In fact, no, we're going to be going one more lap under the safety car. Green at the end of lap 10, unless anybody heads into pit lane this time around, which I don't see anybody doing. In fact, no. We have the Haas of Apex sitting back into the pits. Let's see, moving maybe onto a different common slicks or back onto the intermediates. We'll have to wait and see. And it's back onto the inters. It is definitely not any condition for slick tires. Front wing change as well, possibly denting into the wall just a bit. The very, very poor start for the Haas team. Finally getting going. Alfa Romeo of Block in the chat saying some people are so aggressive during the start of the race. Not even just the start of the race, during the safety car restart as well, there were some people who were definitely very aggressive with some of the moves they made. Lap 10 of 35, 4 cars out, 14 remain. 1 left to catch up to the safety car queue. We should be going green very, very shortly. Don't go anywhere. We'll wait for the Haas to catch up. We'll bring up our results app. The code's on screen to join. The app's available on all app stores. Included are the stats and standings of every race currently passed, both on our Forza and our F1 side. You can see all the points and all the race wins, as well as vote for your driver of the day at the end of every race. Safety car coming in this lap, the confirmation coming through from race control. End of lap 10, we're going back to green flag racing. Scarlet once again is going to be controlled, or in control of the grid. Jump on board with the Haas of Azzy. See just how the reaction goes. Green flag again, Scarlet getting a run out through the restart line. Jumping aboard again. Carbon and D75 going to be side by side into the first corner. Well, as another car going far off the road, that is the Alpine of Rosenquist. Got the yellow flag, sector 1, jumping down the grid. Let's see if we can find out what's happened. That's a huge fall down the grid for Rosenquist, possibly just misbreaking themselves a little bit. D75 getting back past Carbon after that slight tussle between those two. As that restart seems a lot cleaner than the other, but no! Already there's going to be a Red Bull and a Aston Martin. That's going to be Pixels and Broughton coming together, neither of them going out this time, but that's going to be a completely broken front wing for Pixels. Jumping back up to the front of the grid, Azzy is hunting down the Alpine of Scarlet. Just as I thought the race was about to get a cleaner restart, 2 cars in front of me immediately come together. It's absolute peak. Curse of the commentator, it has happened multiple times this season. Keep an eye on this, the gaps down here are very close together. Potato trying to get past Dorado. And indeed succeeding getting through the hairpin. It's going to be too wide with the Mercedes and Mercedes. The slick tire runner getting just a much better grip out of the corner. However, the DRS and the slipstream are going to be pulling into effect. The DRS not going to be enabled for a couple of laps, however the slipstream is huge when you're in a line like that. We're back up to the front. Azzy's going to be making a move into the first corner. Scarlet on the outside. Azzy on the inside. It's going to be reversed into the second corner. Hairpin all the way around. Azzy holding it on the outside. Not quite got it yet. Scarlet still going to be there on the inside through turns 3 and 4. Not a place you want to be going too wide. Azzy just getting through somehow. Wheel-to-wheel contact between the 2 drivers. Scarlet's not going to give up that easily. She's going to be trying to chase down as much as she can against the Haas driver. However, while chasing down, just make sure to not battle too much. That Mercedes of D75 is still there and still could throw both of these drivers through a loop. Anything comes a problem with them. Pixel's heading into pit lane to replace that front wing coming out again. Going to be very far back. Broughton didn't seem to head into pit lane himself. We are safely round another lap by the looks of it, unless issues arise through the chicane. However, all 12 of these leading cars split into two groups. They may be. They could still come into each other through the chicane. Scarlett's trying anything, gaining all the way down the straight through that slipstream. Just not as confident through the chicane, immediately dropping 3/10 back. DRS going to be enabled at the end of this lap. 3-second penalty for Dorado, multiple warnings. We'll jump back over to our penalty detail. A lot in the chat saying, wondering how many people will finish this race. As it stands, we have no idea. Not even halfway through quite yet. We've already had 4 cars go out, still 14 remain, but that could change at any point, especially with the changing conditions we have in this race. It is raining now, it might dry up at the end, it might get heavier, we just do not know. Azzy comfortably pulling away up at the front, over a second worth of gap now. Even if the DRS were to come on now, Scarlett would not be able to catch up to her unless she makes just a bit up through the corners, and make a bit up she has. It all depends on the straight line speed of that. There's another spinner down at the chicanes. Looks to be VNT Rosenquist not coming into any damage for them. 3 wide to the hairpin. It'll be an Aston Martin on the inside. 2 wide in the exit. We'll jump up to that. On board with Mo Sullivan. Still on the slick compound tire is going to be slipstreaming that Aston Martin, which is much faster in straight line. Going to be going for a gap that's just closing. Dorado blocking off Mo Sullivan. Heading onto the right hand side. 3-10 penalty for Jacoby, and here comes Apex on the left hand side. Going to be 2 wide into the final chicane. Somehow getting through there cleanly. Apex just has to settle for a second off through the chicane, but going to be coming again into the first corner. Looking ever so slightly inside, bit of wheel to wheel contact, nothing coming of that. Both drivers getting brilliant car control. Depending on how damp the track is, I'm not sure which of these drivers are going to have the better tyres for these situations. It looks to be in that weird crossover period where it's too dry for wet, but also too wet for dry. It's Apex hitting into the right hand side wall, getting away with it. Just a little bit unstable heading through the Sector 2 entry. Keep an eye on this. We'll jump back up to the front there. The battle for second place is getting ever closer, heading into the hairpin. Scarlett's going to stay ahead, but only 1/10 between them. We'll jump on board with D75 down the straight. The slipstream is going to be everything for them. DRS is getting enabled again. It is too wet for the DRS conditions. Scarlett getting a much better drive out of the hairpin than D75 does. The McLaren of Carbon just in the mirrors. Coming up ever so slightly. Harrison M, 3-second penalty for multiple warnings, possibly running over the chicane. Trying to keep himself out of the wall of champions. As a 5-second penalty for Mo Sullivan speeding in pit lane. As Apex also heads in. Finnell leaving the session after crashing out a couple of laps earlier. We'll jump back over to our tyre detail, see what these drivers are doing. Going to be fresh intermediates for Apex, as well as onto the inters for the Mercedes of Mo. What am I doing? I have no idea. There we go. Apologies for that slight mishap with the detail settings. Back on board with the Mercedes D75, going to be all dependent on this exit. Scarlett is a much better one. A little bit of wheel spin for the Mercedes driver, it sounded like. Also, always looming there in the mirrors is going to be the McLaren of Carwin, currently in 4th place. He's going to be wanting to get a podium, and he is gaining on this Mercedes all the way down the straight. It's just not going to be long enough for him to get it, though. Scarlett, a 3-10 penalty for multiple warnings, running over the chicane. Going to be detrimental to her efforts of trying to catch Azzy. A little bit unstable through from Carbon. Finnell asking how come there wasn't a restart after the VSC. Having a good better from the Spectre's chair. As far as I'm aware, the restart procedures are only available on lap 1 and only available if multiple cars go out. And as far as I've seen, the cars going out on the first lap were from different isolated incidents. Didn't look restart worthy to me, however I will definitely have to go back over and review post-race. Keeping up with this battle, closest cars on track, but half second away from each other. No problem, Finnell. Happy to explain anything I can at any point. Down again to the back of the grid. Apex getting past the Mercedes of Mo. Not quite sure what's happened there. Just need the position change. Those two cars are over a second away from each other. We'll jump back up to the paddle for a second. It's a three-way fight. As that Mercedes is just getting ever closer to the Alpine. Just can't get the same grip up the corners. So be careful with putting the power down as the track is getting ever wetter. Also got to be careful with these corners. Your car can slip at any point if you're not careful. Although all D75 needs to do at this point is stay within 3 seconds of Scarlet, and he will get that position by the end of the race. Having a look down any way he can go though, would rather make it on track if possible. Multiple drivers getting 3-down penalties for multiple warnings. Track limits in the wet conditions definitely proving to be a tricky feat for them. I'll keep an eye on this grouping, as well as the grouping down for the battle for 9th place. 4 tenths there was a bit closer. In fact, it is getting ever so closer, but jumping away through the straights a little bit. Welcome 3-second penalty for multiple warnings. Going to be his third of the race. Some of these drivers need to start getting their lines a bit cleaner. They're going to be approaching disqualification very, very soon. Ladies driver just out of touching distance of getting by the Alpine. Only so much you can do when trying to mimic the lines with the car in front. You need to be just that ever so slightly better just to be able to catch them, and it's an entirely different story of trying to pass another car, especially in these wet conditions. Spin for Harrison M down at the entrance into the middle sector. Broken front wing for that McLaren. Will jump back up to the front. Carbon just falling off a little bit from this battle. Still going to be looming ever so slightly if these two start battling, and he will work his way up. Asley with a 3.5 second lead now up the front. Unchallenged so far in this race, apart from a couple of moments at the start. We'll jump back down to the battle for 6th place. Two cars going to be side by side heading through the second corner. Be side by side again heading through the first sector. Curly trying to get out of the throttle, letting Matilda by in the Aston Martin through turns 3 and 4. A little bit unsteady there for the AlphaTauri driver as he just tries to get that position back. 6-second penalty is there for Mateo. Curly just has to stay within 6 seconds, but these drivers all do want these positions on track. It is just a greater novelty for both them and the spectators. The racing is always hoped to be close here. Pixels getting past Harrison, who heads into pit lane to replace that front wing on the broken McLaren. But these cars are starting to get outside of a second of each other. We'll jump back up to the battle for 2nd place. D75 still chasing down the Alpine. My microphone round is slowly drifting ever closer to me. Heading on to lap 20, 15 laps remain in this, well, 16 technically, including the one that we are on. Follow along with this battle as long as it goes on. We'll also keep an eye on those other groupings that are getting close to each other. However, this is where the current action on track is. Simon Baker leaving the session. That's going to be our 4 cars who are not in the race anymore, all getting their way out. Spin in the exit of the middle sector 4. I'm going to be presuming Harrison M, who's going to be losing another front wing just after coming through pit lane. We're getting blue flags very shortly for Azzy behind. Running off the road a little bit. We see the Haas there just on the left hand side of the screen. We'll jump back to this battle for second place. Carbon getting very close to the back of them through the braking zone, possibly as a consequence of outbraking himself, and indeed it was. Now jumping back to 1.2 seconds back, but is gaining a little bit, possibly getting a better exit onto the straight than these two did. Yellow in sector 3, Harrison M is leaving the session as well as retiring in pit lane. Hopefully that car doesn't come back on track and cause any problems. Not a great race for the McLaren driver, going to be one to forget for him. However, shouldn't cause any issues with any of the drivers. Indeed, the car gets cleared away. Harrison M saying, what a poor track, paraphrasing a little bit there. As well as Blah in chat, do you know what happened last time in Mexico? If Mexico's been on the calendar since Season 4, I don't remember it, but I do remember the Season 4 Mexican Grand Prix as I was racing in it. D75 getting very close to the back of Scarlett, you can just see from the rear view there. 2 tenths of a second between them. D75 going for a bit of a dive here, looking to the inside, thinks better of it, slows down. You gotta be a madman in these conditions to try that. Accelerating out of the final corner, giving a much worse launch than the Alpine in front. Keep an eye on these two as they go to 6 tenths of a second, but we'll go to the Red Bull duo, who is only 3 tenths of a second apart from each other. These two need to be careful. Teammates do not want to hit each other, getting very close, brought into the back of Gerardo. Gordon, of course, with a 9-second penalty in hand. Gonna have a slipstream. Gerardo moving over to the left hand side of the track to let Broughton by, who's currently looking to be the faster car of these two. But that could just be a consequence of the slipstream down the straight. In fact, Gerardo just getting a little bit back in terms of top speed, however diving into pit lane, getting onto a new set of tyres. Beating a penalty for multiple warnings for D75 as ghosting takes effect against what I presume is Pixels, as Pixels spins it on the full wet and goes out of the race. Another car has crashed. There's only 12 remaining. That's going to cause another full safety car, neutralizing the race again. 4.7 second, in fact nearly 5-second gap for Azzy is going to come crashing down once again. Lap 22 of 35. Pixels experimenting with the full wet compound tire. Just not enough grip even in these conditions. However, the conditions are definitely changing. Jump over here. Rosenquist going onto the wet compound themselves. Might see another couple of drivers. Will jump up to Azzy, see what she does heading into pit lane. And indeed she is heading in for a new set of tyres. Jumping over to Scarlett, who is indeed also heading in, as is the Mercedes of D75. Conditions changing even further, going onto the full wet compound. Started out dry, headed into a slightly weird phase of intermediates, now heading onto the full wets. This could get very interesting heading into the final stage of the race, but Carbon's changing onto a new set of intermediates, as is Azzy. Wet compound tyres for the Alpine of Scarlett. We're seeing an empty pit box. Great camera direction from the game. A number of drivers think it might be time for fresh inters, but others thinking it is just too wet for those inters to work. As he's going to be controlling the restart once they get going again for this time round. However, Has to be careful, there are a number of cars behind who are going to be very eager to put distance between them and her. 2 cars remaining to get a penalty. It's going to be the 2 Hasses. We're still heading into pit lane to retire. It'll leave 11 cars remaining. At this rate, we're going to only have points finishers. Back over to the penalty detail. We see 1st and 10th without penalties, the 2 Haas drivers, Azzy and Apex, both veterans of the league. Coming round again for another lap of safety car. 3 still yet to catch up. Dorado, Apex and Rosenquist. Have a look. Doing another ping for the most recent crashed out driver. Might be joining me in the comms booth. We'll have to wait and see. Hopefully it'll get a little bit more interesting for the final closing stages of this race. Welcome on in, Pixels, to the comms booth.
Hello. That didn't go so great.
It did not. We did catch your accident there on the full wet compound tyres. Would you like to explain, just while we're on the safety car, what happened there coming around, I believe it was, if I'm not mistaken, turn... is it 6 or 7?
Something like that, yeah. I was at the back. Track felt like it was getting a bit slippier. Maybe it was just that I had a broken wing. I thought, why not try the wets? And I don't think it was a wet track yet. So
I don't think it was at that point either. However, some drivers are thinking it is a wet track at the current time. Scarlett and Rosenquist, both the Alpine drivers on the full wet compounds. We're still going to be doing one more lap on the safety car. Rosenquist is now caught up. We should be going green at the end of this lap. Will give us about 10 laps remaining in the race for green flag running.
we just bring up the penalties. I need to see what the situation is.
Current situation is a lot of people with 3s, a couple with 6s, and 2 with 9s. The only drivers without penalties are the 2 Hasses of Azzy and Apex.
How do you enable... oh, here it is, sorry. After looking good. And we're not going to get too much field spread, I don't imagine, for the rest of this race, so Apex might jump up quite a few places here.
The only way to know is to see what happens. A couple of lag spikes there from the lobby. Apologies to those watching along with us on the stream. Apart from the obvious, Pixels, who do you think is going to be up there on the podium at the end of this race?
Scarlett, I think Scarlett's gambling here. If she's not in the top 4 here, she cannot take the championship anymore, and Borton's out.
Indeed, Broughton is out, and safety car coming in this lap. Can't jump back to see what's happened there. Getting the confirmation already from race control, we're going to be going green, so I hope that car can get cleared away right and quickly. That leaves us with 10 cars remaining. It's very ironic as well. Broughton mentioning earlier it's more points for him with less than 10 cars remaining, as he is the car to crash from 11th place.
So everyone will now score, and this will be Rosenquist's first points of the season.
Indeed, we'll jump up to Azzy, who's going to be controlling the field again for this restart. Going similar place to Scarlett did, and already getting a 7/10 of a second advantage. We'll jump over to Scarlett as well on the wet comfort tyres. Just see how she does in these conditions. We'll see if it's intermediates or wets yet.
Barely did hit the wall and hit the wall of champions, so I don't think he's got damage on Jacobo as well.
Was indeed around, heading down, falling down to the field into 10th place. All he has to do is finish the race at this point and he'll get points. I think D765 might have ran into the wall heading through what looked like turn 4. Don't see any damage to that Mercedes. The front wing is fully intact. Azzy already getting away over a second with a gap. Scarlett second behind Matedo, and here comes D75. The Mercedes is going to be chasing down again. It looks to be still intermediate conditions, however it is definitely possibly in that changeover period. That exit corner grip that the Alpine had all the way through this race between this battle is just not there anymore. D75 are getting very close into the hairpin. Pretty much on the back of that Alpine, getting off of the corner indeed. Alpine getting away just a little bit, but not as much as it used to.
Rose and Chris also really struggling on those wets.
There's definitely seeming to be the current conditions are favouring intermediate tyres. It might get a little bit wetter between the end of the race. Scarlett staying out of pit lane. Only thing she can do, try and keep that Mercedes behind. She wants to keep this championship fight alive. It has to be what she does.
All the time Scarlett is holding up the numbers though, that is opening up the gap for Grima, or Mateto, to actually get a podium here.
Indeed, the longer these two fight as well, Carbon could get into the mix between them and throw it another way. Scarlett needs to hold this position to have any hope of continuing. Here comes D75 onto the right hand or left hand side, sorry, heading into the corners. It'll be down the inside in the middle sector, getting past, I believe, Scarlett. Put over to the onboard view of the Alpine. Just not enough corner grip, not enough exit corner grip either. Heading into the second DRS zone of the circuit. Scarlett having a look into the inside, just doesn't have any of the grip to make the braking zone work. That Mercedes is well and truly ahead. That's going to put it as it stands. Azzy running away with the championship even more.
I think as it stands, Mateto now drops to third, which is still a podium.
Indeed, it looks to be at this point.
Jacobo looks like he's about to and is passing Rose and Chris. Those wet tyres are not working.
Wet tyres are the wrong call at this point in the race. We'll jump over to Rosenquist, indeed getting passed by the Williams reserve. However, might just be catching up down the straight as well. Or maybe not, that Williams is getting ever so slightly further ahead. Rosenquist letting off the brakes a bit early, another lag spike there from the lobby. Will jump back up to the front of Azzy, running away with it, and Scarlett is losing even more time to Carbon now.
I believe if Scarlett drops below Carbon, which seems likely at the minute, that will be an Azzy championship.
It will be as it stands. Pretty sure Azzy needed to outscore Scarlett by 11 points. And as it stands, I'm pretty sure she's outscoring by, is it 12 or 13?
Oh no, yeah, she already has it actually, because it's 13.
Just needs to finish as it is now, and that will be Azzy's first championship after many years in the league. There's still, though, another couple of laps, 7 or so, remaining in this race. Anything can happen in those 7 laps. So to stay with us and see who turns out to be the eventual champion of this season. Although it's looking likely to be Azzy, nothing is set in stone until the flag drops.
Carbon appeared to have a switch out of the hairpin. I don't know if that was just lag or not.
Definitely was trying to look and make a move, but just not enough grip. Big slide coming out the final corner for Carbon. It might just be getting into those conditions where the inserts are starting to max out their capabilities of clearing the water. Another big slide heading through the first corner. That will put the gap between that battle over a second. We'll jump back to the battle for 7th, the only one within a second. I'd say that is heading outside of a second. Things definitely calming down in this final ending stages of the race. Apart from that, I guess we'll go. How was a quick rundown of your race up until the crash pixels, as there is cars separating out throughout the field?
Pretty bad, to be honest. I got an average start. I think I stayed where I was until we had that virtual safety car, where the rear half of it was like the top four got away and everyone else slowed to. I think I was 20 seconds away from the delta. I don't know what happened there. That wasn't great. And yeah, it all went downhill from there. The first safety car we got, I sort of got into the points again, but then bought and spun, took off my front wing, and that was really it for me.
Interesting. Carbon, a 3-second penalty for multiple warnings. That's going to give Scarlett a bit of breathing room. He does catch up to her again.
And that does secure, not secure, but makes Screamer or Potato more comfortable for the podium.
It does.
Bit of a fun fact of that podium. Screamer used to be Potato. No, Potato used to be Screamer. His first podium, third here in Canada. He could be on for another one, and I was also commentating that race. So,
All the way back in season 3, wasn't it?
Yeah, our last race. So we don't talk about season 4. That didn't happen.
Yes. What season 4 Canadian Grand Prix? There wasn't one.
Yeah, definitely.
Jump back over to the Mercedes of D75. That rain is definitely coming down harder. I do see a couple of puddles forming on the track as well. Could we see possibly a final rush onto the wet compound tyres at the end of this race, do you think?
It depends how hard it gets, because if it's right on the crossover, they could tiptoe around. If they pit now, Scarlett is winning this race unless she goes off, because she's already on the wet.
That might just be the little push that Azzy and all the others do need. We see D75 moving out of the slipstream, just trying to cool those tyres down, definitely working them a bit harder than the wets are.
Rose and Chris, bit of a slide through the wall of Champions corner.
Of course, another thing we need to keep in mind as well is that Potato is on much older intermediates than the rest of them at 22 laps. Everybody else pit under that last safety car has about 8 or 9 lap old tyres compared to the Aston Martin driver.
He's just going to hold on for 4 more.
I'll need to wait and see, but I have a feeling they're going to be getting very uncomfortable by the end of this race. However, he's definitely holding his own against this Mercedes, the Season 5 champion. Trying his best to catch up, but his best doesn't need to be enough at this current stage. We'll have to see how it plays out over the next 4 laps.
We actually have Jacobo now catching Dorado and would take it on penalties anyway, but it's interesting.
We'll jump over to them, the closest 2 cars on track. 1/6 of a second between them. Debut for the Williams driver. Looks to be a little bit of lag kicking into the lobby. Hopefully that doesn't cause any problems at the ending stage of this race.
D7 has dropped back from Potato, I think, by about half a second. I'm not sure what happened there.
They were about a second between each other now. They're about 1.4. A bit of a drop there. Might just be a little too wet. That Williams is right on the back of that Red Bull.
Even a bit of a nudge there.
Possibly having a look at turn 3 and 4. Going to be going down the inside of the Red Bull driver. Indeed he does. Getting a little bit caught up. Dorado having to run over the grass between turns 3 and 4. But Jacobo is well and truly ahead at this stage. However, can he keep it for the ending of this race? Dorado has been a driver in the league for much longer as Carbon's retired. Heading up to Apex. It's right in the middle of the track.
That's too late for a safety car.
It is too late. No, it isn't. It is. Safety car has come out. A full safety car, and that might be it, depending on how long it takes these rear drivers to catch up.
They can't finish on the safety car. We're going to have 2 green laps, which means we have 1 lap of safety car.
Leaves 9 cars remaining. Half of the grid has now went out.
Yeah, lap 33 will be safety car. We're going to restart for lap 34.
Staying out is Potato, Azzy, and D765, as is Scarlett. I don't think any of them want to risk. In fact, no, Kirby's heading into pit lane. And there's a drive-through for speeding under safety car.
That is 9th now for Curly. That race is over unless anyone else
retires.
Yes,
he's going onto the full wet compound tyres. I'm forgetting all my buttons again. Jump back over to the tyre detail, see if anybody else... no, that looks like will be the final tyre change of the race onto the wet compound tyres, but it's going to be detrimental with that drive-through penalty. Of course, he has to serve that by the end of the race, and he's only going to have really one chance to do so, because he can't do it on lap 35.
He has to do it on lap 34. Can't take it on the end of the safety car either.
Yeah, he has one shot of doing it, otherwise it's going to be a disqualification if I'm not mistaken.
Yep, and that will be no points at all, and would bring Broughton into the points. But he should be smart enough to do it. It's guaranteed points if he does so.
He just needs to make his way and finish this race. We'll jump back up to the front with the leader, Azzy. Safety car coming in this lap, confirmation from race control. Laps 34 and 35, a 2-lap shootout for the end of this race. Azzy has a lot of breathing room, 6-second penalty for Matedo and 3-second penalty for D765 and Scarlet. The only car that truly can challenge at this point is Apex, however, it depends what penalties come the way. I don't know what warnings Azzy is on, I don't know what warnings Apex is on, or what anyone else is on at this stage.
Who do we have in Haas 1-2 here?
It could very much be a Haas 1-2 at the end of the very rained-out Canadian Grand Prix. Here goes Azzy, back to green flag racing, a huge jump over the cars behind, already a second worth of a gap pretty much.
Scarlet on D numbers.
Heading on to that, we'll jump back to Scarlet, who's getting passed by D numbers. Again, moving over to the left-hand side, nearly into the pit wall, and behind is going to be Jacobo trying to make a move against Apex. Going all the way down the inside, having to stick the outside line through turn 2. Apex is going to have a better run, but Jacobo getting up immediately past again. Mercedes and the Alpine are still fighting each other, going to be going into the wall. Possibly very nearly a spin for Apex, as Dorado retiring from the session. No safety car for the remainder of this race, going to be staying under green flag for the last 2 laps. 9th place is gone for Red Bull. Both cars are not finishing the race. Scarlet, as it stands, will keep the championship alive for another round, if I am not mistaken.
I believe that does happen, yes.
As within Mateto, it is 25 points for Azzy, 26 possibly for a fastest lap, and 18 to Scarlet. That is only going to be 8 points out of a required 11. However, there is still another 1 1/4 lap remaining. Anything could happen for either of these two drivers. Another 3-second penalty for multiple warnings. Early heading into take that drive-through penalty. Scarlet is catching Matedo at the end of this race. It is definitely getting into full wet compound conditions. Very tentative cornering from the Aston Martin driver. Depending on the runs, depending on how wet it is, Scarlet could be possibly in contention to win this race if you can catch up to Azzy and get ahead, but there is a huge gap there. Matedo running into the right-hand side wall. Scarlet having to get out of the throttle just a little bit to try and avoid that Aston Martin. Heading now into the second sector, only half a lap remaining for these cars, which Scarlet looking for any way past that Aston Martin there is. However, Matedo doing a very good job of making that Aston Martin as wide as possible. Now it is a 3-second gap up to the front of the field. I don't think there's anything left unless Scarlet can get a mega run through the straight. One final sector to go until the end of the race. Scarlet did get a much better run than Matedo, going to be heading on track, going to be taking second place from the Aston Martin driver, moving up. However, has no hope of catching up to first. Matedo might be having another look, doesn't hope for anything. Background, there is no cars going to be challenging each other. A little bit of a push there for Scarlet. Azzy will cross the line in first place, but is not going to be enough for a championship. Scarlet takes second. The championship will stay alive another round. D765 will take third, Matedo in fourth, and Apex in fifth. Sixth place goes to Jacobo, seventh to Rosewitz, and eighth to Curly.
He still had his drive-through as he crossed the line. Did he get another one?
I'm not quite sure. Driver of the day, voted by the game, is Matedo 50. However, don't go anywhere. The results will be in the app shortly, and you will be able to join and vote for whoever you think deserves the driver of the day there. Once again, our code is on the screen. The app's available on all app stores, whether you're on iOS or Android. Feel free to get signed up. You can view all the previous race results and everything there. Confirmation from Azzy having an incident to report later in the race, so although things are still alive for now, we'll have to see what comes of it later. Azzy wins the Canadian Grand Prix round 7 of 9, but it is not enough to secure a championship just yet. We'll move on to Mexico City for round 8. First place goes to Azzy, second to Scarlett, and third to the Mercedes of D765. Could have went any which way at the end of that race, couldn't it, Pixels?
It could have. Anyone could have won that, honestly. Other than Curly, he had a dry suit, which I have noticed he's not been disqualified, so that's okay. He is 8.
Understood. Question from Zane Live in chat. Does results take into account penalties at first, or does it shift after? That's going to be a question for you, Pixels. Running down the grid, though, Azzy takes the win, Scarlett in second, and D75 in third. Fourth place goes to Matedo, very close to a podium, just losing on penalties, and fifth goes to Apex. Sixth place on debut for Jacobo for Williams Racing, and seventh goes to Rosenquist, eighth to Burley, ninth to Dorado, and 10th to Carvin. But both of those drivers are DNF, but still classified. 11th to Broughton, 12th to O'Sullivan, 13th for Pixels, 14th to Harrison M, 15th for Sam Baker, 16th for Fennel, 17th goes to Weaker, and 18th to Blah. It's a very poor day for Alfa.